Hello and welcome to my channel. My name's Ali and this here is a Maestro. And in today's video I'm going to be talking about how to spot a good breeder from a not so good breeder. And the reason why I'm doing this video is because a couple of months ago I did do a video on how much chinchillas cost. And for that video I did have to do a bit of research, but I haven't bought from a chinchilla breeder in the UK for a number of years now, and I don't really know how much they charge. I know how much I charge, but I didn't really know how much they charge. So I thought I'd go on to sites like Pre-Loved and Pets for Homes. Now they're sort of like the equivalent of Craigslist in America and Kijiji in Canada. A free site basically for selling all sorts of things. So I had a look on there on Pre-Loved and Pets for Homes, and I was actually quite shocked by the amount of backyard breeders there were on there. And I thought to myself, right, I should really do a video on this because not a lot of people know how to spot a genuine breeder from someone that maybe doesn't have so much knowledge and doesn't really know what they're doing. So with that being said, I have got a few examples of what I saw on at the time of when I had a look at this. This was a few months ago. First thing I'd say is try and learn your terminology for chinchilla colours and chinchilla mutations. Now the reason why I'm saying this is where a lot of breeders that don't know what they're doing, haven't done enough research, come unstuck. So I do have several videos all about chinchilla mutations. The terminology does differ in different countries though, so just learn what your terminologies are for the country that you're actually in. So I'll give you some examples of where maybe not so genuine breeders make mistakes when they're actually selling chinchillas. Now the first one that I come across on this website was someone selling a grey, a standard grey. They were charging a silly amount of money for it, that's another way to tell, but I'll get onto that in a minute. And they put in the description the parents were a blue diamond, mum was a blue diamond, absolutely fine. If you know what you're doing, go for it, breed blue diamonds. I wouldn't touch blue diamond, but that's just because I don't have the space to breed blue diamonds. And the dad was a royal grey. Now there's no such thing as a royal grey. There's something called a royal blue, which is a black velvet and sapphire combined, but a royal grey really doesn't exist. Now this could just be someone jazzing up their advert to make it sound more impressive rather than saying a standard grey. They're going to use the term royal grey, or it could be that someone genuinely does believe that they have a royal grey, which is doesn't exist. It just doesn't exist. So it did say that the parents had pedigrees, which is a good thing, but again, if you're using terminology that doesn't really exist, it worries me slightly. The next one I come across was someone trying to sell an ebony with a picture of a black velvet, and in the advert it says, oh, they have a lovely ebony coat. If a breeder doesn't know the difference between a black velvet and an ebony, alarm bells should be ringing, because good breeders really research before they start breeding, and they will do a lot of research and they will understand chinchilla genetics and chinchilla mutations. They will know all about it before they've even started. Now, black velvet is a completely different mutation to ebony. They're in no way genetically similar. They basically a completely different mutation. So if someone is breeding chinchillas and doesn't know this, then that's a bit of a concern and you might want to walk away from that person. Quite often again I see people selling beige chinchillas as light greys, and you know they're beige because they have red eyes. Now anybody that doesn't know that there's a difference between grey and beige is alarm bells again. I had someone trying to sell a homozygous beige, and it said that one of the parents was beige and the other parent was grey. Now, if you know anything about genetics, you'll know it's absolutely impossible to get a homozygous beige from that combination of chinchillas. It's absolutely impossible. So the fact that someone was selling a homozygous beige instead of saying what it actually was is a worry to me. Okay, so yes, terminology is a really key area where you can really kind of go, okay, this person hasn't done enough research, doesn't know what they're talking about. So next thing I would do is actually have a look at the photos themselves. If they've used photos of the chinchilla in a cage, check the cage in the photos and make sure they actually are safe cages. So for example, I've seen a lot of chinchillas actually being sold, and when you look at their cages, they've got all plastic in their cage, they've got a wheel that's too small, and you do have to ring alarm bells if they're saying they're a breeder and they have the cage set up like that. It's a bit of a worry, and you might want to try avoiding them because they obviously haven't done enough research into how to look after a chinchilla correctly. Right, next thing I'd look at is actually what it says in the description. Now, you're looking for red flags, things that you think that might be a little bit off. So I saw one advert that made me extremely angry at the time, and maybe more angry than any of the other adverts that I saw. And this was someone that was selling chinchilla kits, and this person said in her description that the chinchilla kit was one of 3 kits from a litter of 3 that the female had had. And I thought, that's all good, that's fine. And then as I read down, alarm bell started ringing when this person put in the description that the mum and dad had raised the kits together in the same cage. Now, if you know anything about chinchillas, you will know that females can get pregnant right before or straight after giving birth. Now, if that chinchilla has already had 3 kids, there is no way you would want that chinchilla pregnant again, because it's too hard on a female's body. It's extremely difficult for a chinchilla to raise 3 kids while pregnant again, because that's quite a large litter for a chinchilla. So most reputable breeders don't do this, and they will always take the dad out long before the chinchilla kids are due. So that being said, I have had 1 or 2 reputable breeders say to me in private that if the chinchilla mum has only had 1 kit, they may leave the dad in there. But they would never ever do that with 3 kits. It's just incredibly hard on a female's body, and I could look at it as in, the best case scenario with this is that the person that was breeding the chinchillas didn't know that the mum can get pregnant straight away, and that it was that bad for a chinchilla's health to do so, and it can actually be life-threatening to the female chinchilla. Or worst case scenario, looking at it, they knew full well the chinchilla was going to get pregnant again, and they just didn't care because they saw the pound signs, which is so sad. So yeah, so things like that you really want to watch out for. If it doesn't sound like it makes sense what they're saying, or if there's alarm bells ringing regarding what they're saying, then yeah, I'd steer clear of them. Next thing I would say is look at the price that the people are charging for their chinchillas. Now, I know everyone can charge whatever they like for a chinchilla, but in most cases in the UK, I know it's completely different elsewhere. From my last video on pricing, I know that in America it seems to be much higher, and in some other parts of the world it seems to be much more expensive to buy a chinchilla. But in the UK, you should be able to buy a standard grade from anywhere from £80 to about £120, £150. £150, you're looking at a top quality show chinchilla. So if someone's trying to sell grade chinchillas for £200, then you know that they're trying to rip you off. And there were so many on there trying to sell their chinchillas for £200, £260 for just a standard grade chinchilla. Most mutations don't go above £200, except for Royal Persian Angoras and Black Pearls and Blue Diamonds. They go for a little bit more money. Standard grade should not go for £200. That is a ridiculous price for a chinchilla, and that leads me to believe, why are they doing this? What is the incentive for them to do it? And normally it is money, and when it's all to do with money, quite often the chinchillas suffer the price of that, like with the one that left the dad in. So yeah, worth looking at the prices So the next thing is something that some legitimate breeders do actually do, but it's just something that grinds my gears ever so slightly.
You know what really grinds my gears?
And this is to try and sell their chinchillas at just 1 day old, or very, very, very young kids. Now the reason for this is because you don't know if that chinchilla is going to survive at that stage, because as with all animals, some chinchilla kids don't make it to adulthood, and it's sad, but it's just a fact of life. And you don't want to disappoint someone that's put a reserve in on a chinchilla only to find out a couple of weeks later, actually no, it's passed away. So I don't understand the logic there. And also, I understand that sometimes chinchilla breeders can't keep all their males, so if it's a male they know they're going to have to sell it straight away. But I still don't understand the concept of selling a chinchilla at a day old. It does make me think, what is their prime motivation for actually breeding chinchillas? Now, most show breeders will actually hang on to their chinchillas for a little while to see what they turn out like, because if they're really, really high quality, they might want to introduce them back into their breeding program to actually improve the overall genetics of their herd. With show breeders, it should all be about the quality and what qualities the chinchillas have, and for that reason a lot of show breeders actually hang on to their chinchilla babies, which again is what I do really. I don't show my chinchillas, but I do like to hang on to them for a little while to see how they turn out, whether I want to put them into my breeding program or whether I want to sell them on. Now, for someone that's selling at a day old, they have no idea what the qualities of that chinchilla is going to be like, and it makes me wonder what is the prime motivation for them breeding in the first place if they're going to sell their chinchillas at 1 day old. And sadly, it is often money, and I get it, chinchilla breeding, I suppose breeding chinchillas can be a source of income for some people, but at the same time it still makes me feel a bit icky inside that some people do this. They actually sell their chinchillas at a day old. So it's something I just really, really don't like seeing, is when people sell their chinchillas at a day old, because you have no idea what the quality is going to be like, you have no idea whether they're going to survive or not even, and it makes me wonder what your prime motivation is, and quite often it's money. When the only motivation is money, then the care standards can kind of drop a little bit, because you're not caring about the chinchillas, all you're caring about is those pound signs. If the chinchilla breeder doesn't ask you many questions at all and just literally wants your money, quite often I will actually say to people, no, you can't have this chinchilla. Now, I very rarely actually sell to breeders. Now, the only times I've really sold to breeders is one, if they haven't been honest with me and told me that it's going to a pet home, and then I later find out, oh, they're actually a breeder. So number 2 is if I've been contacted by a breeder and I've got some good vibes from them and I've seen that they should be cared for correctly, then I might occasionally sell to a breeder, but on the most part I don't. So I know that my breeding chinchillas are actually in an outbuilding, but it is actually connected to the main house. And although I do have them in smaller cages than the pet cages, they do have time outside their cages every day. But with some breeders, they keep them in ever so small cages and they don't let them out at all. So I haven't really got a strong opinion on that, really. I mean, each to their own. It's everybody. Some of the best show breeders in the country use those run cages, but for me, when I want to sell my chinchillas, I want my chinchillas to go to the best home possible, and that means a pet home. So when I sell my chinchillas, I really want them to have the best life possible, and I don't think being shut up in one of those cages their entire life is the best possible scenario for them. I much prefer them to go to pet homes where they're going to have a nice big cage, time outside playing, and hopefully lots and lots of attention from their owners. And I think that's a much better scenario for them than going into a breeding setup. Now, that might really piss off a lot of breeders, but it's just the case. I don't like selling to breeders the majority of the time. So, I don't really know why I got onto that, but there you are. But that's some ways to tell between a good breeder and a not so good breeder. And let me know in the comments where you got your chinchilla from. Did you buy it from a pet shop, or did you buy it from a breeder, or did you do the ultimate thing that I think is absolutely fabulous, which is rescue a chinchilla?